I feel like at the same time that I discovered drugs, I also discovered being trans. So I think it's safe to say that I was on two different journeys at the same time. I was trying to find out who I was, and at the same time trying to forget who I was. It took me into a deeper depression than it should have, because I felt like I was doing everything wrong. I felt like I wasn't trans enough, or I felt like I wasn't chronic enough to fit into a certain group of people. Doing drugs in general was a way for me to numb the pain from my childhood. I went through a lot of abuse as a child, physical abuse, mental abuse, sexual abuse, and all different kinds of abuse that no child should have to go through. So every time I would get high, whether it was meth or weed, cocaine, anything that it was always my way to separate myself from self. I knew it was a problem when I started to commit crimes. I knew it was a problem when I wasn't just committing crimes just to commit crimes, but to support my habit. I started to prostitute. I started to do things like shoplifting from stores. I would run all kinds of gift card scams. I would steal the identities of my dates that I would meet on the streets or anywhere that I would meet them. I would steal their social security cards and all this stuff. I'm risking my freedom, but at the same time, I'm high, so it didn't really matter. The relationship with my family changed drastically after 2008. That's when my father passed away. I began to distance myself from them, and I didn't really have a connection with them. I didn't really have a relationship with my family. If it was a connection or any time that we communicated with each other, it was just a simple hi, bye, how are you doing? Take care of yourself. And at that time, I didn't realize that I was so depressed. I didn't realize that I had these abandonment issues. I didn't realize that I had like this separation anxiety from my family, from the people that I was supposed to feel safe with. I isolated myself and I would just stay on my own. I started finding myself in this situation where I would be with abusive men. I would be with toxic friends. I would hang out with people who didn't respect me for who I was. I mean, I didn't even know who I was. So that's what really kept me there in that cycle. It just kept me going back and forth, you know, so it was lonely. That's the best word I can use to describe it. I was a person who wanted to forget my past, but my past was always with me. And in the way that people hurt me in my past, I began to hurt people like that. July 1st, 2017, I got arrested for fraudulent use of a credit card, unauthorized possession of confidential personal information, and identity theft in the 3rd degree. And I ended up going to OCCC for my first felonies ever. It was then that I realized that I was done. 2017, I got the mumps in OCCC, and I was in isolation. I was in there for about a week. And I think on my 6th day of quarantine, I looked at myself in the mirror and I started to think about all the people that I would encourage, all the people that I would tell them that they're worth it, all my sisters that I was there for in their darkest times. And at that point, I asked myself, who's gonna tell me that? Who's gonna be here to tell Maddison, Maddison, you're strong. Maddison, you're beautiful. Maddison, you're worth it. And I began to cry. I just began to cry. And it wasn't even like sad tears. These tears were like tears of defeat. They were tears of pain. This was years long. And I just cried and I cried and I cried. And all of this pain that I felt from years, from my childhood, they started to come out for the first time in my life. And it was then, on that day, October 17th, that I realized that I have to change. I have to change. And that was it. That was the day that I decided to turn my life around, because what's the use of doing drugs? There's nothing for me. I asked my public defender, I asked him if he could make it a stipulation, a part of my probation, for me to go to rehab, for me to go to drug treatment, for me to have to complete these things before I can be let off of probation. I went to treatment, and at the same time, I was going to meetings. I was working my 12 steps, and I was doing all of this, but there was just something missing. There was still something missing, and I think what was missing for me was me. I was doing all of this, and I wasn't present. Maddison wasn't there. I had to realize that I was worth it. I had to tell myself at that point, you're worth it. This takes time. Trust the process. You have to be able to trust the process, because if you don't trust the process, then it's never gonna happen. I ended up getting into a clean and sober house, and I got a job. I'm still learning today. I'm still learning how to be me. Just finding out all these little things about myself, about my recovery, about me as a trans woman, about me as a Samoan woman, about me as just Maddison. The difference between my relationships today and while I was in my addiction and from my childhood is that I'm able to set boundaries. I know my limits. I know what I'm worth, and I'm able to make that decision to be able to say to somebody, I'm worth this much. I'm worth more than what you're giving me. That's what was missing before, was me. I realized that I am somebody. I am a human being, and I can take care of myself. I'm not my pain. I am not my past. I am not my trauma. I am Maddison, and I'm worth it. Because 3 years ago, I was in jail. And today I live in my apartment, and I'm grateful. That is the biggest difference. I'm grateful for everything that's in my life today. I'm grateful for it all. What I would say to somebody who is going through the same struggle as me, I would tell them to stick it out. Just stay. Take that time to learn about yourself, because you're an amazing person. I don't know who you are, but if you're watching this, you're an amazing person.